Opening greeting for World News Greenty, your trusted source for fast, accurate, and unbiased international news. Here we bring you the hottest global updates, in-depth analysis, and diverse perspectives on the world's most pressing issues. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story. Thank you for choosing World News Greenty.
Here are the main contents of today's news: Russia-Ukraine war, India and Pakistan in the Kashmir region in the 3 days of May 16 to 18, 2025, Rakhine, Myanmar in the 3 days of May 16 to 18, 2025.
Summary of key developments in the Russia-Ukraine war, May 16 to 18, 2025. May 16, first peace talks since 2022. Ukraine and Russia held their first direct talks in over 2 years in Istanbul. Both sides agreed to exchange 1,000 prisoners each. However, a ceasefire could not be reached, as Russia demanded Ukraine withdraw from Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, and recognize Russian control over Crimea. Ukrainian Air Force loss. A Ukrainian F-16 fighter jet was shot down while intercepting a wave of Russian missile and drone attacks. The pilot ejected safely. Attack on Crimea. A drone strike destroyed an ammunition depot belonging to Russia's 126th Coastal Defense Brigade in Perevaln, Crimea. May 17, attack on civilian bus. A Russian Lancet drone targeted a civilian evacuation bus near Bilopilia, Sumy Oblast, killing 9 and injuring 7. President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the act as a war crime and called for increased sanctions on Russia. President Trump's intervention. U.S. President Donald Trump announced he would call Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on May 19 to push for a ceasefire. He criticized Ukraine's use of U.S. aid and expressed hope for a swift peace deal. Kharkiv offensive. Russia expanded its offensive in Kharkiv Oblast, recapturing 13 villages and advancing toward the northern bank of the Vovcha River. President Putin claimed the goal was to establish a buffer zone to protect Belgorod, denying any intention to seize the city of Kharkiv. May 18, Vatican peace proposal. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio proposed that peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine be held at the Vatican, following Pope Leo XIV's renewed offer to mediate. Trump-Putin call preparation. The Kremlin confirmed preparations for a May 19 call between President Putin and President Trump, with a potential summit involving Zelensky if progress is made. Russia, Major Offensive Area 1. Kharkiv Oblast, northeastern Ukraine. Vovchansk, Russia advanced in the area, capturing 13 villages and nearing the northern bank of the Vovcha River. Putin reiterated the objective of creating a buffer zone to protect Belgorod, denying plans to seize Kharkiv city. Kupiansk and Oskil River. Russia continued its offensive, establishing bridgeheads across the Oskil River and capturing most of Dvorichna. The goal is to cut off Ukrainian supply lines and enable deeper advances into Donbass. 2. Sumy Oblast, northern Ukraine. Bilopilia. On May 17th, a Russian Lancet drone struck a civilian evacuation bus, killing 9 and injuring 7. President Zelensky condemned the attack and called for tougher sanctions. Other areas. Regions such as Mykolaiivka, Khotin, Yunikivka, and Krasnopilia were also hit by shelling and UAV attacks, resulting in civilian casualties. 3. Crimea. On May 16th, a drone strike destroyed an ammunition depot belonging to Russia's 126th Coastal Defense Brigade in Perevaln. Ukraine. Defensive and counteroffensive areas. 1. Kharkiv Oblast, Lipsy. On May 15th, Ukraine's 13th Kartia Brigade, supported by the 92nd Brigade, retook positions north of Lipsy using unmanned ground vehicles in what's believed to be the world's first combat deployment of ground combat robots. Kharkiv City. On May 2nd, a Russian drone strike injured at least 40 people and damaged residential areas and infrastructure. 2. Sumy Oblast. Ukraine continues evacuating civilians from border regions under attack. Ukrainian forces are reinforcing defensive lines to prevent further Russian incursions. From May 16 to 18, 2025, along with forecasts. Summary of the India-Pakistan conflict in Kashmir, May 16 to 18, 2025. May 16, ceasefire violation in Poonch. An Indian soldier was injured by a landmine explosion near the line of control in Poonch district, Jammu and Kashmir. The explosion occurred during a routine patrol, prompting the Indian Army to launch a large-scale search operation in the area. Tense atmosphere. Despite a ceasefire agreement brokered on May 10th, sporadic explosions and minor skirmishes continued, particularly near the LOC. May 17th. Political response in India. Union Minister Ramdas Athawal stated that the ceasefire was only temporary and urged the Indian government to take stronger measures against Pakistan. Kashmir unrest. Anti-Pakistan protests erupt in several areas of Kashmir, reflecting widespread public anger over Pakistan's alleged involvement in recent violence. May 18, ongoing tensions. While no major clashes were reported, the situation in Kashmir remained tense, with a heavy presence of security forces and growing fears of renewed conflict. Conflict forecast. India-Pakistan, May 2025. The India-Pakistan situation, especially in Kashmir, remains volatile due to a complex mix of historical hostilities, ethnic and religious divisions, and both nations' nuclear capabilities. The following forecasts are based on current dynamics, current factors analysis. India holds a clear military advantage in terms of troop numbers, defense spending, and technology. The Modi government maintains a hardline stance on border security, especially with elections approaching. Civilian casualties from terrorist attacks like the one in Pahalgam have increased domestic pressure for a strong military response. Pakistan faces a severe economic crisis and internal political instability, limiting its ability to sustain a prolonged conflict. Continues to employ a strategy of proxy warfare through armed groups operating in Kashmir, likely to rely on drones, artillery, and special forces to destabilize the region rather than engaging in full-scale military actions. Short-term forecast, next 2 to 4 weeks. 1. Continued low-intensity skirmishes along the LOC. Expect ongoing artillery exchanges, minor infiltrations, IED incidents, and drone activity. Civilian populations will remain at risk, further escalating diplomatic tensions. 2. Full-scale war unlikely. Due to the high nuclear risk and international pressure, particularly from the US and China, both sides are expected to avoid a large-scale conflict. However, a major terrorist attack on Indian soil with credible links to Pakistan could trigger a limited retaliatory strike, e.g. a surgical strike. 3. Increased diplomatic engagement. The U.S. and regional organizations such as the SCO or ASEAN may increase mediation efforts. A second ceasefire agreement could be proposed if violence escalates. Medium-term forecast, 3-6 months. Most likely scenario, prolonged localized tension, resembling the post-Pulwama period in 2019. Negative scenario, a geographically limited conflict involving airstrikes and artillery lasting several weeks. Positive scenario, back-channel negotiations led by the US or China successfully establish a de-escalation mechanism. Summary of the armed conflict in Rakhine State, Myanmar, May 16 to 18, 2025. May 16, airstrike on school in Sagaing. The Myanmar military launched an airstrike on a school in Otaindwin village, Depayan Township, Sagaing region, resulting in numerous civilian casualties. The National Unity Government, NUG, condemned the attack and urged the international community to intervene to stop the ongoing war crimes. Humanitarian crisis in Rakhine. Women and children in Rakhine State are experiencing severe psychological distress due to daily airstrikes, the loss of loved ones, and the destruction of homes. May 17, airstrike on school in Chin State. A woman and a young boy were killed in a Myanmar military airstrike on a school in Mindat Township, Chin State. Although the school was not in session at the time, the attack still caused civilian casualties. Targeting of civilians as strategy. A former Myanmar Air Force officer revealed that the military is deliberately targeting civilians to pressure resistance groups into surrendering. In the first 2 weeks of May alone, the military carried out 58 airstrikes against civilian targets across the country. POW release in Minbya. The Arakan Army released 225 prisoners of war captured during its battle to gain control of Minbya town in Rakhine State. The move was seen as a goodwill gesture amid intensifying conflict. Power outages and communication disruptions. Widespread blackouts and communication breakdowns occurred in Rakhine and other regions such as Kachin, Karenni, Chin, and Mandalay, severely hampering communication and access to information. Overall situation: escalating conflict. Fighting between the Myanmar military and ethnic armed groups such as the Arakan Army, AA, and the Tang National Liberation Army, TNLA, continues to intensify with ongoing attacks and counterattacks. Humanitarian crisis. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced by the conflict and now face severe shortages of food, clean water, and medical care. Women and children are especially vulnerable in this worsening crisis. International appeals. The National Unity Government, ENUG, and international human rights organizations have called on the global community to take action against the Myanmar military's atrocities and to provide urgent humanitarian aid to affected civilians.
Thank you for watching World News Greenty. We truly appreciate your time and support. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more global updates. See you in the next video.